Last weekend, we looked at the phrase from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, whatever is pure, think about such things. And as I said in my talk last weekend, there are two warring definitions of purity in the Bible. There's Jesus purity, and then there's Pharisee purity. Jesus purity leads to freedom and brings joy. Pharisee purity leads to slavery and drains joy. But both sides are all about purity. They just define it quite differently. And you see it in verses like this, where Jesus goes to a party thrown by his newest disciple, Matthew. Every single person there is what the Pharisees would call a sinner, a tax collector, a prostitute, or something else. And the Pharisees complained to Jesus, "Why do you eat and drink with the tax collectors and sinners?" That's in Luke chapter 5, verse 30. Do you ever wonder what was their problem? Well, in a word, contamination. The Pharisees and teachers of the law were worried about getting sin germs from these people. And so they came up with over 2,500 clean laws, because the Pharisees taught the Messiah would only come to our nation when we are all religiously clean. And so if you're not keeping the rules, you're not just corrupting yourself, you're keeping the Messiah from coming to Israel. And this is why it was such a disconnect for them when Jesus shows up and says he is the Messiah. And then what does he do? He wades right into the pool of unclean people and touches them and hangs out with them. In fact, earlier in Luke, a leper comes up to Jesus. Lepers, of course, very unclean. And he throws himself at Jesus' feet and says, "If you are willing, make me clean. Just say the word." And it says Jesus looks at him, and he could have said, "I am willing." Bam. But Jesus did something he didn't have to do. He reaches out his hand and he touches the leper. Why? That was against the clean laws. He didn't have to. He could have snapped his fingers and made him clean. By touching him, Jesus is making a statement that he will continue to make at Matthew's party. As Tim Keller says, throughout all of history, when the diseased come into contact with the clean, what transfers? The disease. You don't catch health from someone, you catch a cold. But Jesus is saying, my healthiness is so robust that it's more contagious than any of your diseases. As Keller says, with Jesus, infection works in reverse, all the way down to our inner character. And that's a dynamic completely the opposite of man-made religion, right? Man-made religion is God won't help you if you don't get your act cleaned up first. But as Keller says, with Jesus, there is a robust holiness because it originates in God and not in you. As 2 Corinthians 5:21 says, "For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." That's how God sees you the moment you received Christ. Today, you can ask Jesus for his contagious purity. And from that moment on, you can choose to see yourself the way God sees you. Jesus's purity, it is not fragile. It is contagious. And so receive it and then spread it today.